Hey there, my name is Megan and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing the 20 questions book tag. I originally saw this tag on Bookable's channel and I'm not sure who the original creator is, but if I can find out, I will link that channel down below. But this is just 20 fun questions about your bookish, habits, reading life, etc. But before we go ahead and get on into the questions, if you are not already subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well as the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I post new bookish content. I post new videos every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and sometimes other days throughout the week. Also, don't forget to check down in the description box for links to my social media, my Buddy Read Discord, and my Patreon, where you can be entered into winning book giveaways from me. Question number 1 is, how many books are too many books in a series? And in my personal opinion, I think 5 is a good number to stop at, because after 5 books, I feel like the plot just starts to drag and I kind of just want it to be over with, and then I have to wait a couple years for the new book to be published, and then usually the plot kind of deviates a little bit and then the author ends up adding in all these new characters in order to expand the story. So I feel like 5 is a good stopping point. Question 2 is, how do you feel about cliffhangers? I mean, that's kind of why I want to read the next book in a series, is because there's a cliffhanger, so I don't mind them at all. It builds up that angst, it builds up that suspense, so bring them on. Question 3 is hardcover or paperback, and honestly, I have no preference. I read both. I have both in my collection. I don't prefer one over the other. I have never been able to decide between the two, so no preference for me. Question number 4 is your favorite book, and I feel like that's such a hard question, but if y'all know anything about me, you know that I love The Outsiders by S.C. Hinton. It's one of my favorites, still makes me tear up every time I read it. And then I also really love Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. So I would say these are 2 of my favorite books. Question number 5 is my least favorite book, and this was a hard one too. I'd probably have to say Middle Game by Seanan McGuire, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. Question 6 is love triangles, yes or no? And believe it or not, I feel like a love triangle can be done very well. It was just at one time they were just oversaturating like books and the YA fantasy market. But I feel like love triangles can add in like some good conflict, some good inner reflection, and also a lot of like angst. So I don't mind them if they're done well. Question 7 is, what is the most recent book that you couldn't finish? And for me, that was We Free the Stars by Hafsa Faizul. I read this book, or tried to read this book earlier in the year. I DNF'd it after about 200 pages. I just wasn't feeling the story. I just felt like it was very tropey, and I didn't love the first book enough to invest myself in finishing out the series. Question 8 is the book that you are currently reading, and I'm currently reading 12 Kings and Sherakai by Bradley Belier, and I only have 50 pages left. It's taken me a lot longer to get through than I thought, but I'm gonna finish it today, and I'm liking it quite a bit. Question 9 is the book that you have recommended to someone, and I have been trying to get my husband to read The Lies of Locke Lamora for years and years and years, ever since I read it. He's not a big reader, definitely not a fantasy reader, but this has such light magic, and it's more about the characters and the cons that I feel like he would like it. But we're waiting for the audiobook to become available at my library since I messed up the library hold, and he said he would read it. So this is one that I have recommended to him. Question 10 is, what is the oldest book I've read publication date-wise? And I'm going to have to go with one of the Shakespeare plays, either Romeo and Juliet, Macbeth, Hamlet. Any of those have all been written in the early to mid 1500s, and I'm pretty sure those are the oldest books that I've read, only because I DNF'd the Odyssey, or I would say the Odyssey. Question 11 is, what is the newest book that you have read publication-wise? And I had to use the filter on my Goodreads in order to find an answer to this, and I was kind of surprised, but it's Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson, which was published, I think, last November, 2020, December, roughly. And I thought I had read a 2021 publication, but apparently I haven't. So this is the most recent published book that I have read. Question 12 is, who is my favorite author? And I can't just choose one, guys. I can't. I actually filmed a video about my most owned authors, and usually my most owned authors are my favorite authors, but those would be Robin Hobb, Brandon Sanderson, Victoria Schwab, and probably Ray Bradbury. Question 13 is, do you buy books or borrow books? And I'm a book buyer. I just am. It is the only thing that I choose to spend my money on because I love having a library and I love being surrounded by books. And I have no problem borrowing books. I check books out from my library, audiobooks, physical books, but if it's something that I know I'm going to love and it fits in with my collection, then I want to own it. Question 14 is a book that you dislike that everyone seems to love. And there's a couple, but I'm going to go with Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating, which is an adult romance, which is not a genre that I read very often, but I had just heard awesome reviews about this book. It was like a friends to lovers type of romance, and oh my gosh, that ending, it just made me so mad, and I could not stand Hazel as a character. I found her to be one of the most annoying and unrealistic characters that I have ever read, and it just made me cringe inwardly whenever I had to read from her perspective, and it just wasn't for me. Question 15 is, do you use a bookmark or a dog ear? And I use bookmarks. I don't like folding the pages over in my books because then they get all creased and then they rip, and I'm a little bit particular like that. Question 16 is a book that you can always reread, and I have a couple that I've read multiple times. The first one is The Hobbit. I love it the same every time I read it. And then the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy I've reread, and once again, I love it every time I read it. And then I have The Outsiders, which I get to read with my 8th grade students every year, and I'm just blessed that I get to share the experience with them. And then The Lies of Locke Lamora, which I'm currently rereading, even though it's only my second time rereading this, but I'm just loving being back in this world and with these characters, and I'm enjoying it just as much reading it the second time as I did the first time. Question 17 is, can you read while listening to music? And yes, I can. I didn't used to be able to do this, but what tends to happen is I'll be sitting on the couch and my hubby will be watching like a movie and TV, and I get super distracted and I don't get as much reading done. So what I started doing is I started listening to music with no lyrics, like just chill ambient music. And that's the only type that I can listen to without getting distracted. So now if I find myself getting distracted by the TV, then I'll put my earbuds in and I'll put on that type of music, and I'm able to read completely fine. Also works good for studying too. Question 18 is, do you like one point of view or multiple point of views? And it really doesn't matter to me. I don't find one preferable over the other. I find that with the first person point of view, I do sometimes get more emotionally connected to the character. With fantasy, I find that multiple point of views can expand the world a little bit because fantasy is usually very immersive. But I've also read fantasy books that are from first person point of view or contemporary that are from multiple POVs. And really, I have no preference as long as the author executes it really well. Question 19 is, do you read a book over multiple days or in just one sitting? And honestly, it depends on the book. Like if it's short and really quick to get through and I'm really into it, then I'll try and finish it in one day. But if it's like a 1,000-page fantasy book, I'm not going to be able to finish that in one day. It takes me like an entire month to read a Stormlight book. Question 20 is, who do you tag? So I'm going to tag a couple people. I'm going to tag Epic Tales. I'm going to tag Dom over at Dominish Books, Andrew at Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and Nico at Nico's Book Reviews, and Steph over at Stephanie's Book Verse. So I'll go ahead and link all of their channels down in the description box below. Definitely check them out, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments some of your answers to these questions, and I will see y'all soon. Goodbye!